These great beasts which are four kings, which what? Which what? They shall arise. So here's Daniel in the last year of the reign of Belshazzar, and he says that the four beasts are four kings that shall what? So therefore I know right away, can the first beast be Babylon? No, because he says all four of them are what? Future. So none of the beasts here in Daniel chapter 7 can be corresponding to the different points of the statue in Daniel chapter 2, because God tells you in the passage that all four of them are what? Future from where Daniel is at in the last year of the reign of Belshazzar. So the vision, reason number one why that is not going to work, is that Daniel has a vision in the last year of King Belshazzar. I know I spelt it wrong, so don't criticize me too bad. Belshazzar. I spelt it really bad. We know in verse 17 that all the beasts are four kings, which are future from where Daniel is standing. Therefore, as I said, Babylon cannot be the lion and so forth, because all four of these have yet to arise to power. Look at verse 17 again. Read it with me again. These great beasts, which are four what? They are identified in the passage by God the Holy Spirit as being kings rather than what? Kingdoms. And you say, well, what's the big deal? Doesn't a king rule over a kingdom? Well, obviously yes, but what he's talking about is individual what? Kings. He says so. So you don't have the correspondence like is commonly taught. And the fourth thing that I want you to look at is verse 12. And concerning the rest of the beast, notice, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season. Actually, we should have read a little bit further. Go back to verse 11. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body was destroyed and given to the burning flame, as concerning the rest of the beasts. Now we know, what are the beasts? From verse 17. The beasts are what? They're four kings. So the four kings in verse 12, as concerning the rest of the beasts, or the rest of the kings, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a what? What does that verse tell you? That verse tells you that all four of these kings are alive and on earth at the same time. Because one of them dies, or is crushed, which we'll look at in a minute, and their other three continue to what? To live, and they are contemporaries with each other. They are all alive and on earth together at the same time, and they're not running consecutively like they do in Daniel chapter 2. Right? So you say, what does that have to do with anything? Come back with me, look at verse 8. Verse 8. It says here, I considered the horns. So the fourth beast is described there in verse 7, and at the end of it, it says that he has 10 horns. Verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, notice, there came up among them another little horn, before whom were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of what? A man, and a mouth speaking what? What did 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 say about the man of sin? It called him the man of sin. It said he was going to speak great things against the Most High, that he was going to claim worship to himself, and all these sorts of things. Who is the little horn? It's the man of sin. Verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. Who is the individual described in verse 9, 10, and 11? Who is the individual that comes and with hair as white as snow and is called the Ancient of Days? It's Jesus Christ. Okay? Now, come with me if you would and look at verse 19. Daniel 7, verse 19. He says, "Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before him 3 fell, even of the horn that had eyes and a mouth, and that spake great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows." Verse 21. "I beheld the same horn," this 11th horn that comes up after, "I beheld the same horn made war with" who? The saints, "and prevailed against them." Who's that? Who makes war against Israel? The beast during the book of Revelation, right? He's going to go out and make war against Israel, and he's going to prevail against them, and they're going to flee to the wilderness. We'll look at that in the next study. And he's going to make, notice in verse 21, he's going to make war with the saints and prevail against them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given over the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints should possess what? So this little horn is going to make war with the saints. He's going to do so until the Ancient of Days comes, to possess what? The kingdom. Right? Isn't that what it says? Now, verse 23. "Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10" what? "Kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue" what? 3 kings. We don't have time to look at it, but write down in your notes Psalm chapter 83, verses 5 through 8. If you want to know the identification of who are these 10 nations that are going to be confederated with the man of sin, with the beast, during the tribulation period, they are all identified for you in Psalm chapter 83. Okay? Maybe we should go look at that quick. Come with me to Psalm 83. I think we should because, again, one of the common things that you hear if you listen to the prophecy mumbo-jumbo on TV is that all of this stuff is coming out of the European Union. Psalm chapter 83, verse 5. Verse 4. "They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel be no more" in what? So there's going to be a confederation of nations whose goal is going to be to wipe the name of Israel from what? The earth. Verse 5. "For they have consulted together with one consent. They have confederated against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and of the Ishmaelites, and of Moab, and so on, all the way down through there. There are 10 nations that are identified there in that passage. And you know what? None of them have anything to do with Europe. They all come out of where? The Middle East. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with the European Union.